Hello, hello, hello. I am Too Tight LeChuck, and welcome back to Glitterature Alley, your back street, off the beaten path, under the radar, and beyond the pale place to sparkle up your senses while we talk about all things literary. And today, we've got lots and lots and lots of things to do. I was, being a member of Booktube, there are these tags where people tag you or it and say, would you answer some questions for us? And Sean the Book Maniac was kind enough to tag me for the VLOGMAS set of questions. And I was just getting ready to do it when Lukash from Totally Pretentious did books Steve Donahue is not reading. And then, if that weren't enough, he did a Deathbed tag of all things art and literary that you would want to partake in on your deathbed. So I thought I'd just squish it all together in a joyous holiday, pre-holiday talk. So before we begin, I'll start with the shortest. I only have 2 books actually, and I can guarantee these are books Steve Donahue has never read. I can guarantee 1, and I'm pretty sure about the second one. The first one, this is not the guarantee, but this is The Manly Art of Knitting. And if you look, we'll put an insert here, you can see there's a hunky little man on a horse knitting perhaps a blanket. And to tell the truth, I did read this book. It's not very comprehensive, and it's not even very good. It's got just the sketchiest amount of instructions, and I was hoping it would have patterns and things like that, but alas, it's just a basic primer on some basics of knitting. And I had thought to myself that one day I might write a knitting book, and I told my friend who goes by Hajida on Instagram, who's an amazing knitter, that I would like to write a book, and perhaps he could help me, because all I can really knit are quadrilaterals and one form of a hat. And he said, well, he's not interested because nobody reads these days. So that's that. The second book that Steve Donahue will have never read, because, well, partly because it just came out last week, is Great Escapes from Detroit by Joseph O'Malley, my pen name. And yeah, I'm going to have to plug this for a little while, so just settle in, folks. It's going to be a long ride. But those are the 2 books that I think Steve Donahue has never read, and I'm just going to plop these on the floor just like that and get to the Deathbed tag. Joy of joys, happy holidays, the Deathbed tag. And these are books or questions about things that you would like to partake in on your deathbed. And in Lukash's tag, in Lukash's video, he mentioned that if you had only a week to go or a month to go, or if you were in a hospice. But I prefer to think of it as the very last day of my life. And actually, it's not like I haven't thought about this before. I mean, I am I'm over 5,000 years old. I'm actually like 5,708 years old. And I know, everybody says I don't look a day over 4,000, but that's primarily because of the lights and just the merest smidgen of rouge. But in any case, the day will come eventually, and I'm prepared. So the first question is, on your deathbed, what music would you like to hear? And my answer is Sarasat's Malagueña. Now, every time I've seen this listed, they say Sarasat's Malagueña, Opus 21, number 1, but I don't know if there are other Malagueñas. I've only heard the one from Sarasat. And if you are going to look for it, you can look for it in usually a collection of 8 Spanish dances. I used to have one on vinyl that I think Deutsche Grammophon put out, but I no longer have that because I've gone digital. So that's what I would like to play as I'm headed out the door on the glitter train. What novel is the second question would I like to read while I am dying or just before I die? And anything by Jane Austen, because I think I would need a bit of comfort. And any time that I need comfort, I've spouted about my love of Jane Austen for a long, long time, but when I feel sick or when I feel tired or when I feel lonely or when I feel happy or when I just need a little lift of some sort, Jane Austen is the one I go to, and probably Emma, maybe Sense and Sensibility, something, Pride and Prejudice maybe, Mansfield Park probably not, but let's say Emma by Jane Austen. If my death was impending, if the train was rolling up around the corner and I only had one more movie to watch or one more film to watch, what would that be? Well, of course it would be Calamity Jane with Doris Day. And I really don't need to say much more than it's got one of my favorite lyrics in the world where she's just come back, Calamity Jane has just come back from Chicago, and she says, for the sake of civic virtue, they have fountains there that squirt you. And I think I need say no more than that. And you can find out what a joy Calamity Jane is on your own and just go to Netflix or somewhere that, I don't really know. There are no movie rental places, but some digital thing that you can find, Calamity Jane. Do yourself a favor, even if you're not dying. Visual art. If I were dying, what would I want surrounding me? And I probably would go for Van Gogh. Probably not the portraits, but perhaps some of the landscapes, and most of them probably from the Japanese period, his Japanese period. Also perhaps Joan Mitchell, who was a fantastic abstract expressionist and a tremendous colorist. Her colors are just astounding. If you see any of her paintings, if you get a chance to see any of her paintings in person, you're in for a treat. She's just a strange, astounding painter. Or if I wanted something a little bit more simple to calm me as I head out the door, perhaps some Mark Rothko would be good. What poem would I like near the end of my life, before my limbs rot and my corpse begins to stink? I would say Gerard Manley Hopkins has my heart and will always have my heart. Perhaps Inversnade, which, in case you didn't know, I have done a lip sync of that, and I will link it below. And to plug the channel just one more time, The Windhover is actually quite an uplifting poem too, and my sister, Sister Mary Rosebud, did a fantastic lip sync of that, and I shall link that below too. But perhaps because I'll be on my deathbed, I would say Carry and Comfort would be I'll not carry and comfort, not feast on thee. That would probably be the poem that I would choose to say goodbye on. A religious text. Well, I would have to say that the end of James Joyce's Ulysses is about as religious as I get these days. That the very ending with Molly Bloom saying, yes, yes I will, yes. I could tear up right now, and I think I just did. That's just a beautiful, affirming way to go, to just open yourself to the universe and let yourself go into it. And that would be what I would want read as I'm heading out the door. And then the last question is, what other work of art? I would like, I've asked my sister, Sister Mary Rosebud, that when I die, I would like all the elements to come together. I would like air, water, fire, and earth to come together, which means that I would like to be burned on a pyre on an ocean beach. And in that way, I can combine all of the elements and I can go poof off into the universe, and whatever parts of me land in whatever parts of me, wherever they need to land, I'll be all set. But as a going away present, while I'm burning, while my flesh is sizzling and ash is rising and you know, the water is seeping around the pyre and grabbing bits of my molecules, I would like Irish dancers, perhaps maybe if there's a tooth left over, a hard platform on the beach over my tooth, and I would like to have Irish tap dancers just tap the shit out of my tooth and send me off on my way, and that would be that. And that's my deathbed tag. And thank you, Lukash, for thinking of me. I have thought about this, and there are so few people who will sit and actually listen to such things. Now, I will go toot sweet, and the tutor the sweeter, to Sean the Book Maniac's tag, which is called the VLOGMAS tag. And I'll just give you I'll let that siren go. Okay, we had some siren malfunctions, we had some wardrobe malfunctions, but we're all together now and we're ready to start the VLOGMAS tag, which Sean the Book Maniac has kindly asked me to answer questions about. VLOGMAS, because, you know, a vlog and it's Christmas, and I'm just going to give you the rundown of each question begins with the letter VLOGMAS, and so you'll be able to figure that out as we go. Voyage is the first question. Name a book that has a voyage, and of course, the first thing that came to my mind was Canterbury Tales, which is 24 stories written by Geoffrey Chaucer, written between, I have a little note card here, written between 1387 and 1400, and it's simply the conceit is that it's pilgrims who are on their way from London to Canterbury to visit the Thomas Becket's cathedral to maybe do some penance, maybe do some partying, hard to tell. But so it's pilgrims on their way to Canterbury, and there are two ways you can go about this Canterbury Tales. You can, even though I am 5,000 years old, my Middle English isn't quite what it used to be. The great vowel shift and all that, it's changed everything for me. So my Middle English is not as good as it used to be. So there is this Penguin Classics version in the Middle English, and then, well, it's about half of it, and then the rest are notes. So let's see, about this much is text and this much is notes, just so you can get an idea of that. If you are lazy like I am, you'll get the translation or the modern version of Canterbury Tales. This is also Penguin Classics, and it's translated by Neville Coghill, and this is probably the easier way to go to read these wonderful, wonderful tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Canterbury Tales, if you're up for a journey. I'm going to see what I can do here to get these over. Oh, heck. I'm just gonna put these over here, put these over here, put this over here, and we're gonna be ready again in a second. Okay, so the next one is LGBT books. And now, I just started reading Mysterious Skin by Scott Heim. And so while I can't give it a full-throated or perhaps a deep-throated recommendation, I will say, I'm right here, I'm at a page 155 out of 282, so I'm more than halfway through. And I didn't know very much about this book, but what I thought I knew kept me from it because I'm that shallow of a person. Somehow, some way, I ended up having more curiosity about this book, and I finally picked it up and began to read it. And I'm not going to tell you anything about what it's about. It's somewhat disturbing because I'm a very tender soul and I'm easily disturbed, but it is quite disturbing, and it's very weird. And if I had known more about what it was about, I still would not have picked it up, but that would have been foolish of me because this is so well written, and not in any sort of flowery, gorgeous prose way. Scott Heim has such a sure hand. He knows how to render a moment, and it's set in Kansas in the 80s and 90s, 1980s and 1990s, and his ability to set the scene, I mean, I feel like I'm in Kansas. I just feel like I'm in such sure hands with him. And while I've only read the first half, I'm going to recommend it anyway, because if you can read, even if this is only half of a great book, it's a great half. So I do recommend Mysterious Skin, and when I do finish it, maybe I'll let you know, maybe I won't. I hope to get back to Shakespeare before long, but I do recommend this. This is really, really wonderful. I'm tremendously impressed with how simple and clear of a writer Scott Heim is. He's just, it's beautiful, simply beautiful. So that's my LGBT pick. The next question is about a gift that has gone, a book gift that has gone good or bad. And all I can tell you is that Mama Lautrec was a reader, but she read mostly Danielle Steele and Nora Roberts. And if you're into that sort of thing, great. I'm not, but Mama Lautrec was. And one time I gave her Marilyn Robinson's book, Housekeeping, which I adore. And if you've ever read it, you'll know that there's a lake. It takes place near a lake in Idaho, I think. And the prose is just beautiful and tremendously descriptive and also quite simple, but poetic too, because she's a very intelligent woman, Marilyn Robinson. But I gave Mama Lautrec this book, and her comment when she finished it was, well, she sure does go on about that lake. And in fact, yes, Marilyn Robinson does go on about that lake in Housekeeping. And if you've never read it, please do, and you'll know exactly what Mama Lautrec was talking about. The next question is all in the family. Who are the readers in your family? Well, of course, Sister Mary Rosebud is a great reader, and my brother Eustace, who goes by a less euphonic name that I won't mention, actually started me off reading. I used to raid his bookshelves where there's Charles Dickens and Ray Bradbury and all sorts of things, and that's what actually got me started reading. So Mama Lautrec, as I said, was mostly Danielle Steele and Nora Roberts, which I did try, but it bored me to tears and I gave it up immediately. So not a tremendous amount of readers, but because our family is huge, still enough to make it worthwhile. Now, the last question is Santa's wish. What's your wish list that you would have for Santa in terms of books? Well, I pretty much got everything I need, Santa. Thank you very much. I wouldn't mind world peace, and if you could do something about climate change, that would help too. But if I were to make a wish, I would probably wish to read all the books that I do have that I have not read, that have been given to me by friends. A friend of mine just gave me Susan Sontag's The Volcano Lover, which looks quite good, and I would like to get into that sooner or later. there's Joan Didion's The Year of Living Dangerously, which I was given to me years ago and I still can't quite face. But I know that I should. So The Year of Living Dangerously is on that list of things that I wish I could face this year. Also, a friend gave me, I think, Sally Rooney's Conversations with Friends. And I know that I think Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading hates that book, and Adam from Memento Mori also hates everything Sally Rooney does. So I don't have a lot of recommendations for it, but my friend loved it. So I would like to read it to decide for myself. And speaking of Memento Mori, I have never read Memento Mori by Muriel Spark. And I suppose I really should get down to it, shouldn't I? So, another book that was given to me is this book, Hot, Cold, Heavy, Light by Peter Stedall. And I don't know exactly if that's how you say his name. Peter Stedall? But he's an art critic for, he was an art critic for The New Yorker, and I've read some of his pieces that are quite good, and this comes highly recommended. So, of course, I also would like to get back to all of my Shakespeare research, and in particular the sonnet cycles of other people besides Shakespeare, so I could get more of a handle on how they compare and have a little bit more substance behind my sonnet lessons, which should begin again, I'm hoping, February. And my last wish list is that perhaps you could look at the link in the description box and maybe pick up Great Escapes from Detroit by Joseph O'Malley and maybe do a review on it. Now, I said in a previous video, that if there is a negative review, I will not comment on it. And I'd like to broaden that to say that if anybody reviews anything, if you do review this, even if it's a positive review, I will not comment on it, because I would hate to think that I don't want to be sycophantic, or I don't want to encourage that. I want honest reviews, and I'll pretend like I never saw it, whether it's a glowing review or whether you put it on fire and toss it in the trash can and put out the fire with your own spit. It won't matter to me. I'll pretend like I never saw it. I'll be grateful that you've deigned to read it and think about it and give the world a little bit of an idea of whether it's worth looking into or not. But even positive reviews I will not comment on at all. I'll just pretend like I don't know you, I've never heard of you, I don't know what you're talking about, I have no idea who this Joe O'Malley person is, but Great Escapes from Detroit. Follow the link below. And that would end my wish list. And that would end my taggy Christmas, pre-Christmas video. I may have some silliness coming up in the pre-holiday season, and then I'm going to get down to brass tacks. I may have a little bit of a video where I get into boy drag and go to the launch of this book, and I may show you some of that. But I hope to get back to Shakespeare's sonnets in around February. So until we meet again, I am Too Tight LeTrek, and please remember that the world really is full of wonder. It's not a joke. It's full of wonder, and you need to pay attention to it. I'm Too Tight LeTrek. Mwah.